Today on Cloud Renegade, we have the April 2020 UCOMS update. Hey everybody, I'm your host Adam Ball here with Cloud Renegade, and today we are going to go through the April 2020 UCOMS update. Now, for those of you who don't know what the UCOMS update is, this is just my collection of tidbits and things and industry news that has happened since the last user group meeting for the Colorado UC user group, and we are just going to go through and talk about everything. So the presentation we'll have today, you'll have links in the description to get to that PowerPoint, as well as anybody who's been mentioned. So some of the MVPs will have links to them for their Twitter links. Every slide in the deck has a link to where you can find out more. So go check out the deck in the description and everything like that. We presented this previously at the TGI Teams. If you haven't checked that out, TGI Teams, find them on Twitter. Great virtual reality event, bringing people together during this time of COVID, and it's a fantastic way of just being able to see things in a new way. It's a really interesting experience, so hopefully you'll give that a go. If this has been useful when you get to the end and you say, hey, I've found some new stuff that I wasn't aware of, hit the like button, hit subscribe, help us out, just to help get that audience out there. We would really appreciate that. And with that, let's go ahead and dive right in now to the content with the UCOMS update. First up is the Trio C60. This is a brand new version of the Trio. Many of us have had the 8800 or the 8500, and this new one launched, and it will connect to both Teams and to other platforms. Really like the look of it with that new look. Looks like a fabric kind of cover on it. Might help with some of the dust collection that happens, at least on mine, here in the home office. Big one that just came out is the local media optimization for direct routing. This really helps out when trying to get users connected directly to an SBC so that their media path is as direct as possible, and we're not bouncing them up to the cloud and back down to the same location or near the same location to the SBC, so that they can get out to the PSTN as quickly as possible. At the end of March, we had an update for the Microsoft Teams rooms. If you have a Microsoft Teams room, this is probably one that you really want to have. It now adds modern authentication and support for both the Exchange and Skype for Business components, as well as adding support for dynamic emergency calling. This is a big deal for users who may be needing to be able to call out from the conference room itself. Our first update from an MVP, Ragnar Heil. Hopefully I pronounced that name correctly, so apologies if I didn't. But Ragnar does a great job of detailing out what Teams calls with Slack looks like. Slack had come out and announced that they were going to have integration with Teams, and what we found was that a couple days later they delivered on that. So obviously they had been developing that and announced it once they were ready to deliver, which was kind of a neat way of doing it. And Ragnar here gave us a good idea of what that might look like. On the Surface Hub, the latest update, March 30th, the Teams app got an update, and this allows for a Microsoft Teams to have a new meeting experience, or an improved meeting experience, I should say. And with this, I have not actually been able to test this, so curious on what that really looks like for the improved meeting experience. But if you do have a Surface Hub, whether it's the original V1 or a new 2S, probably an update that you want to go grab. The latest Skype for Business 2019 CU3 has dropped out, and now we have the Modern Administration Control Panel Phase 2. This is great that they're starting to bring more and more to the Modern Administration Control Panel. That is the HTML5 based version of the control panel. The control panel since Link 2010 has always been a Silverlight console, so getting away from Silverlight over to HTML5 is a really, really good thing. Next couple of updates really tie into LMS and learning management systems and things like that in education. First off is Schoology is now supporting Microsoft Teams. I love this because my kids use Schoology, so I'm hoping their school district might start to actually use Microsoft Teams over what they're currently using, mainly because of the fact that it ties directly into what they're doing with Schoology. And next is the fact that we have Canvas integration with Microsoft Teams. Again, just another LMS type integration for the EDU space. So having both Schoology and Canvas have integration with Teams is a great step forward as we look to see how we can do distance learning here in this time of COVID. Next up is they've brought background blur to iOS, which is awesome to see. So many times people will be walking through an airport having video on or something like that, and now having that ability to have background blur on your mobile is fantastic. Hopefully they'll bring this to Android, but it's iOS for right now. Next up is that we've got the raise hands feature is coming, and this is really going to be excellent for students who may be in a classroom using virtual learning or in meetings. Maybe you're doing a webinar or something like that where you're teaching people, and people can actually do raise hands going forward, and this will be great to see come to the product. This was back in 2007, I want to say. We had this feature in the live meeting service, and it was really, really useful. And now to see it come back, I know that a lot of people are excited about this. So Business Voice is now here. This is for small businesses up to about 300 users, and you can actually get it where it basically adds on, and you can get $20 per user per month USD, and it includes phone system, audio conferencing, and a domestic calling plan. Can be added on to any subscription that includes Teams, and there's also an option for businesses to bring their own calling plan. So if you have your own SIP trunk provider or you're using a direct routing as a service provider, there's an option for that, so you don't have to use the Microsoft calling plans if you don't want to. Collaboration bars, I think, are going to be one of the next big things in the meeting spaces, especially in the huddle room spaces. Yealink and Poly both have announced theirs, and we also have the ability to control the collaboration bars in the Teams Admin Center. Both really, really slick devices. These are all-in-one units where basically you can just have this in there. Works great with a touch screen. Highly recommend it, pairing it with a touch screen so that you can just have it hanging on the wall. People walk in and are able to use it very, very fluidly. Going along with devices that have been announced, Poly is officially announcing their CCX phones. These are really, really slick looking phones. Biggest thing to note here is that they don't have a traditional dial pad, so I'm going to be really curious how users adapt to that or find that these phones meet their needs, but they really look great. Very modern look, very sleek look. So happy to see that we have some new phones coming out from Poly. So no graphics on this one, but Microsoft announced that they're going to allow up to 10,000 users in a team. Seems very, very big as far as a number of users in a team, but for some organizations this might be really, really helpful. So hopefully that's the case. Probably one of my favorite things that's come out in the past month is the COD Connector to PowerBI. Microsoft dropped this out, and now we have the ability using PowerBI to connect to all the CQD data, which allows for us to build our own custom dashboards. Microsoft released 6 dashboards from the get-go just so that they can you can get an idea of what's possible, and this is really neat because now you can have a lot of that going on with the graphics and everything like that. Second one from our MVP friends, MVP Tom Arbuthnot announced, brought to my attention at least, that Microsoft Stream Mobile is going to enable recording, editing, and uploading. At our local user group, one of the cool things is that somebody announced or talked about the fact that their CEO is communicating out to their entire company using Stream, and that's really, really neat as a way to communicate in these times of uncertainty. So congratulations to that company. Hopefully this will be able to allow for them to maybe have a little bit more options for how they connect via Stream and not having to sit at a computer. So if you haven't deployed the hybrid Exchange Hybrid Config Wizard lately, there is a new update, and there are a few things to note here. So definitely worth looking through and understanding what those changes are. And if you haven't updated your Hybrid Config Wizard in a while, might be worthwhile taking a look to see if you need to do that. So Microsoft Graph, change notifications for messages. This is one of those things where I see it, while I can't utilize it in my day-to-day life, I see a lot of power for this, especially if you're a developer for Teams. This is where you can actually have a bot or something that's actually looking for notifications, change notifications on messages, and seeing if a message is changed inside of a team or channel. And this allows for a lot of potential within bots to just kind of be looking for new messages and things of that nature. So I'm sure developers are excited to see this. Wanted to bring that to the attention of folks out there who may not have seen it come out. Randy Chapman doing a killer job still, and again with his blog. If you're not following his blog, you definitely should be. Brought out how to do extension dialing in Microsoft Teams. This has been out there for a while. Randy just does a great job of walking you through how to do it and how it works. This is very similar to what we've done for a long time in OCS, Link, Skype for Business, and now in Teams using that ext equals to be able to do extension dialing. I recently had to do some work with GCC, the GCC tenants, and Microsoft brought out this top 10 FAQ, which is really, really helpful, answering a lot of questions around GCC. So if you're doing a GCC moderate or low, or a GCC high or DoD deployment, this is probably your first stop to just make sure that you have all your questions answered if you're a customer. This was a fun one. While we were doing this update at the user group, background effects actually went GA, and so this is kind of neat. So if you've seen background effects from other meeting platforms, we now have it in Teams and have the ability to change our background effect versus just blur. I think this is great because sometimes blur just isn't enough. You can still see people moving around in the background, which can be a distraction. And having a solid background can be really, really helpful just to remove some of the distraction that can happen. Plus, it can also give you guys something to talk about for the first 5 or 10 minutes of the meeting as people flip through and choose their favorite background effect. The new meeting join experience. This is great. Microsoft had a good version previously, but I think this actually streamlined it and made it even better to be able to determine whether you want to download the app, continue on the web browser, or if you already have Teams, just opening it up and going right to your meeting. Makes this very much more clear, brings the choices to your eyes very, very quickly, which I think is a great option. So kudos to the team for bringing this one out. This one's been a big to-do over on Twitter. Saw a lot of people commenting on the Skype and consumer to Teams interop capabilities. This is something that's been there again in the previous products, so not surprised to see it come out. Very curious to see who's using it and how this gets used in a business sense. I'm sure there's lots of ways this can be used, so I'll be really curious to see what people take this and do with it. So multi-window chat, this was announced that this is coming here in April, and so looking forward to seeing that, where you can pop out chat and have that out off of to the side, which might allow for video on the main monitor and having a chat message side channel conversation happening off on a secondary monitor, so you can kind of see the chat and the video content there, things of that nature. Or maybe you just need to have a chat that you want to have going on throughout the day, and you don't want to have to be flipping back and forth to that within Teams. This will be great. So not going to play the video here, but if you guys want, you can actually see, go to the PowerPoint. Again, the link is in the description, and download this, and then you can get to the YouTube video that shows how Microsoft Teams is reducing background noise in Teams meetings with noise suppression. This is a really good use of AI, and fantastic to see what they've done with this, and being able to eliminate some of that background noise. And then last but not least, we saw this new on-premises Diagnostics for Skype for Business server come out. This looks like a really, really neat tool, and for helping troubleshoot some of the more common scenarios that are happening within Skype for Business server. This is an example where it's looking at federation troubleshooting, but there are many, many different scenarios that you can use within this to do some troubleshooting. So take a look at this if you've got Skype for Business server on-prem. Definitely worthwhile testing out. And that's the April 2020 UCOMS update. Again, if you thought this was useful, if you found something new, hopefully you'll hit subscribe, hit like, and then come back next month. We'll do this again in May, and really appreciate you watching. Thanks.